Hello and welcome to A Splash of Paint, brought to you in association with the SAA. In each programme we'll be taking a look at the latest products, tips and techniques from some of the most popular leading artists and help individuals and art club members from across the country unlock their creative confidence and try their hand at something new. Let's have a look at the colourful lineup on today's palette. Internationally renowned pastel artist Vic Bearcroft will demonstrate the versatility of pastels and show us how this popular medium can capture the true beauty involved in creating lifelike portraits. Malcolm Cudmore will be giving us an insight into his deepest secrets by revealing some of his favourite things. We'll be showcasing the works of up-and-coming oil artist Warren Seeley in our regular introducing feature. And unlocking the Art by Archive door as Billy Showell reveals how to paint water droplets on a leaf using watercolours. But before all that, let's take a quick look at how easy it is to add a touch of realism when painting reflections in water. I've pre-prepared this little landscape painting with the house, the tree and the lovely dark sky, and I'm going to show you how simple it is to add a lovely reflection of the building and of course the tree as well. The first thing you need to do is get a pencil and just make sure you know exactly the height of the house compared to the water. Now the way you do this is very simple. If I measure bottom of the pencil, thumb to the top of the highest point of the chimney in this case, and capture this and move it down to the bottom of the house, that's going to give me the perfect height for the reflection. Use your finger as a bit of a marker. And then we've got an idea, so I know the highest point of this, and I can almost draw a fantasy line coming down to give me that point as well. So that's the highest point of the chimney. And then we can basically marry everything to this. So the side of the house comes down, parallel of course. I'm only sketching this faint because I don't want to see too much pencil. Straight down. And you can almost see that first sort of apex coming through. I'll put the angles for the side and the loose impression of the chimney. Let's do the other side as well, straight down. And you can see how everything's getting nicely lined up. Now the angle of the roof, so if that one goes down, this one then goes up to meet it. And then very loosely, I can just mark in the angles of the roof there. So you can see that's a pencil form of reflection. Now when it comes to doing the tree, this is very simple because the tree actually goes off towards the right. So for the mirrored reflection, it would do the same. And a common problem that I see people doing all the time is getting mixed up between a reflection and a shadow, very different things. So I can just loosely mark in the reflection point of the tree, and we don't need to see all that much of it. First job is to wet your water. You can't beat wet water, it's essential. So basically I'm just going to go on and I'm going to put the water on. Look down the edge, you'll see the bits you've missed. And just move across, go right up to the edge where the landscape kicks in. And the first thing to do is make sure it's all covered, like I say, which it is. And then we're going to go for the natural blue. Natural blue, nice and pale. Wipe your brush on the side of your palette. Right at the bottom, it's very pale. We're just kind of taking the white away from the actual picture. Sweep it across. We can go over the building, over the tree, it doesn't really matter. And then we'll go for some of that grey because there's lots of grey in the sky. Again, down at the bottom for the grey. And just sweep it in over to this side as well. Again, you can go over the building. At this point, try and keep your lines nice and horizontal if you can. And then the paper's still nice and shiny, so what I'll do is put that brush away and go for the size 6, which will give us the detail and the reflection. So I want to get some kitchen roller as well because painting is quite emotional. And it just lets you wipe the excess away off your brush. I'm going to go straight in, and because the paper's damp and because I'm taking the excess off the brush, it's going to slightly spread. This is what you call bleeding paint, which is quite a common phrase in watercolours. Just going to very lightly bring it through and sweep it across. Bleeding paint means it slightly softens on the edges, and because you've sketched this thing in, it's very easy to actually bring it in, and you can see the paint spreads, it softens, but it doesn't go too much. The secret is to do that. Wipe it on the tissue first. And we can see it starting to give the reflection effect. If you squeeze your brush through the tissue really well, in fact squash it with your finger. You can see how you can just wipe it down and it kind of lightens that side. It's almost giving the junction between the side, the shadow side and the light side. Let's go for the brownie colour. Put the tree on, bring that down. Right at the bottom, clean your brush, squeeze it through your fingers or the tissue and just let it just disappear away. Let it become part of the picture. You can see how that reflection just fades away. This is exactly what you're looking for. We'll then go for the natural grey and then we'll put the shadow on. So if we do the shadow side of the building, paper slightly damp and just let it all disappear off and it kind of becomes part of the picture. Now as it goes on, I tend to clean my brush again, wipe it through my tissue again. Almost make the brush go flat, I suppose, because it makes it become a blending brush and it lets you flatten it and it lets you drag the colour and it lets it just become part of the image. And it softens in and you can see more reflection, you can see that starting to take form. So the shadows go in at the end. We could also drop a little bit of shadow just on the side of the tree to help it along a little bit. And just to wrap things up really, very dry brush, which is the opposite to a wet brush. It kind of means taking the paint off. It's the grey again, and very, very dry impression of the windows. I'm virtually putting no detail there. It's using the side of your brush and just kind of lightly dragging it through. Probably get away with a little bit of a dark line for where the actual underside of the guttering would be as well. And then we finish off by using the pale natural grey that we started with, and it's the kind of thing to stand up for and get a nice flow like you're conducting an orchestra, and go in, same brush, and just put a couple of little bits of ripple or movement in your water, because it's essential that everybody has a bit of movement in the water. And we can see we can just sweep it in and it just kind of finishes it off and it gives a lovely film or surface to the actual water. Try and keep your lines as horizontal as possible, but the odd one or two doesn't really matter. And that's it, folks. That's a very simple, quick way of doing reflections in water. Okay, folks, let's take a closer look at how the versatility of pastels can bring a touch of softness and texture to your paintings.
SAA soft pastels are ideal for general use, but particularly with velour paper, as they're the harder end of the soft pastel range, so they enable you to get lots and lots of layers on. If you put the layers on lightly and rub it in well, then you can get up to 100 layers of pastel quite easily. Also, because they're on the harder end, you can use the edges, the sharp edges, for some reasonably fine detailed drawing. So let's just sketch out the basic shape of an eye. This is with a dark grey pastel to start with. And you can see that that will give you a reasonably sharp edge, or you can turn it onto the side to get a thicker edge if you want to. But using the sharp, rounded edge of the pastel, you can get some quite detailed marks on there. So we'll put in the basic shape of the eye to start with, and then we'll add a little bit of colour. So we can use these pastels on the side if we want to paint bigger areas. So for example, if I want to paint the colour of the eye, which is blue, then we use the side of the pastel. And a little bit of pink around here. This is actually English red, which is one of my current favourite colours. And put a little bit of pink tone in there. Again, use the side of the pastel for larger areas, larger coverage. Rub it in, just settle it in. You don't have to rub it in too hard, but just settle it in with the fingers, and that will hold it in the paper, trapped in the fibres of the paper, and it will stay there. So let's have a few highlights on here. Highlight in the corner of the eye, a little bit on the lower rim. And again, I'm using the edge of the soft pastel for this. Because the edge does wear down a little bit, that will give you a sort of nice, soft edge, especially in areas like this, like the lower rim of the eye. And then find a little sharper edge to put a reflection in there. And maybe a little bit of highlight on the other side. And then just finally back to the dark grey for sharpening up any areas that need to be a little bit crisper. Again, The edge of the pastel is ideal for this. And there we are. This is our perfect accompaniment for velour paper.
Join us after the break when we'll see more from Vic and Malcolm Cudmore conjures up a few of his favourite things. See you after the break, folks.